Hey guys, this is a revised version of a rant I posted on Twitter a couple of weeks ago under the hashtag USA on Fire. I didn't want to speak any further on this issue because I feel that I'm far from an authority on the subject, but it didn't sit well with me to start talking about happiness without addressing the atrocities currently happening in the US that are limiting the pursuit of happiness for Black lives and other minorities. As a minority myself, this injustice truly hurts. Racism is the root cause of the social problems in America, but I believe it is important to differentiate between two issues here: racism in society and systemic racism governed by institutions and authorities. While they are both linked, I believe one of them is enabling the other. I fully acknowledge that racism in general is a major issue, and it is something that needs to be addressed. But I also recognize that racism stems from prejudice, ignorance, and fear of difference. Unfortunately, I do not believe we will eradicate fear and ignorance anytime soon. However, as a minority, I refuse to become a victim because of it. I always say that your individual happiness is ultimately your responsibility, and that's because you are in control of how you set up the environment around you. First and foremost, I simply choose to not engage with this hopefully small racist part of society and limit my exposure to them as much as possible. Secondly, with the all-seeing eye of mobile phones and social media, we now have a powerful tool of social policing against racism at our disposal. Even though there will be people that hold unjustified racial biases and stereotypes, the important thing is that the mainstream population all agree that racism is bullshit, and I believe they do. However, I'm fortunate enough to live in a country that does not systemically and intentionally oppress certain parts of the population based on their ethnicity, and that's the bigger issue here. The systemic racism in the US is allowing not only racist police, but also racist individuals to get away with murder. Some of the American systemic biases are obvious, but one has to realize that police brutality and racists in society are only part of this larger evil cycle. And that's why the US is so fucked. My goal with this upload is to try my best to describe the cycle right here. Dear US, you don't have a democracy. You have a plutocracy where people with old money have created a system to grow their wealth by the likes of compounding interest and tax alleviations, while the rest lack even basic common goods such as free or subsidized healthcare and education, things that are essential to be able to grow wealth. For fuck's sake, people accrue tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt just to get an education, which in reality they could have gotten online. Like seriously, who decided that providing education to the population should be a profit-maximizing business? You're left with a population either with massive debt or no education. No wonder the average level of education is so low. The game is also largely rigged due to the covert discrimination by the real estate market, where most of the wealth of all American families stem from. People do not have access to the same loans or even the same neighborhoods based on their race. Not only do Black lives matter, literally all of the most relevant parts of American culture for the past 30 years have come from Afro-American culture. And yet, they're constantly being put in an environment to fail by the system, and very few make it out. The average American income by the bottom 50% has decreased over the past 30 years, and the inequality, and thus unhappiness, keeps growing. Finally, you have a police force poorly trained and poorly designed, incentivized to violently oppress and incarcerate the people that are being put in these bad situations. They don't recognize the systemic failures. They do, however, recognize the color of your skin. Rather than protecting the citizens, helping communities, and taking preventive measures against criminal activities, you have a police force with built-in racial bias and a license to do whatever the fuck they want in the name of fear. Justice is no longer blind, and those unalienable rights on equal opportunity you hold so dearly are no longer upheld. At this point, I have no idea what you should do. You need major political and structural change, but at the same time, there is no trust in the government. Furthermore, because of the flawed education system, The average American lacks the basic knowledge and understanding of these issues to actually utilize their democratic rights effectively. It gives me some semblance of hope that the protests are actually encouraging changes and reforms. But I want people to understand that the police is only one part of the systemic oppressive cycle that keeps Black lives and other minorities down. I hope you get well, America. I hope you get your shit together. But all I can do is hope.